Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Facebook Live. I'm Julia Marvin, and I'm the marketing manager here at Jefferson Center, and I am so excited to be joined today by our president and CEO, Dr. Kiara Kuenzler. Kiara, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting these. It's been such a wonderful way to spread our message and get the word out, Mental Health Month.
Yes, yeah, and not that you mentioned Mental Health Month. So May, every year in May, we observe Mental Health Month, and that's when we lead Jefferson Center. We lead the observance by reaching people in the metro area to increase awareness and reduce the stigma that's often associated with mental illness and substance use disorders. And so, in previous years, data showed that 1 in 5 adults would experience a mental health problem in any given year. However, these days, we know that everyone's mental health has been affected in some way or another. And the past year and the global pandemic have had a significant impact on everyone's mental health, regardless of age, race, ethnicity, gender, or socioeconomic standing. And without treatment, these disorders can affect a person's ability to hold a job, care for a family, or have hope that things will get better. And yet less than half of people with a diagnosable mental illness will seek treatment either because of the stigma associated with mental illness or because they don't know where to turn. And so this Mental Health Month, we really are hoping to shine a light on this global issue and let people know that mental health is a priority, mental illness is treatable, and help is always available. And whether you're experiencing a mental illness yourself or know someone who's working through their own challenges, the bottom line is that mental health is for everyone. And so that's where, we all come in as being mental health allies, and awareness, accessibility, and allyship are all community issues, which is what we're going to be talking about today, how you can advocate for mental health all year round. So, Kiara, to start, what have you seen change in the past year about mental health and the discussion around it?
Yeah, thanks, Julia. I think you mentioned a lot of the things that we're seeing in terms of mental health impacting all of us. The impact of the pandemic has affected all of our mental well-being, and to varying degrees. We are in different circumstances. Some of us juggling, taking care of kids at home, remote school, working, older adult family members that we've been trying to care for. So there is a lot that we've been juggling. And it is normal to experience some amount of distress during these unusual times that we faced. What we've seen is that people with prior mental health or substance use struggles have struggled more. So there was a period of the time at the beginning of the pandemic where people weren't sure about accessing care, and if those services were open and available. And some people went without the treatment that they were used to, and their symptoms got worse. So we've seen just a worsening of existing mental health and substance use issues, as well as people who have never struggled with a mental health or substance use issue before, coming to us and saying, I just can't do this on my own anymore, and I need some help. And we are seeing larger than prior numbers of young adults, so people ages 18 to 29, for example, really struggling with symptoms of depression and anxiety at numbers that we've never seen before. There has been a lot of struggle for people of color and individuals who have been really re-traumatized by some of the events in the news and around the country related to violence against Black Americans, against Asian Americans, and other people of color. And that has just increased the already really challenging circumstances of the pandemic. So we have seen the number of people struggling just skyrocket over the past year.
Wow. Yeah. I think we're 1 in 5. It's probably a lot closer to 5 and 5 now. And so, why is it important that we talk about things like mental illness and substance use and treatment?
Well, part of what you mentioned before is really accurate, that if we don't talk about it, if we don't seek the care that we need, it ends up affecting our lives in really significant ways. Many of us during this pandemic have thought, oh, I can hold it together, just get through these months, get through this period of time. But if you don't take care of your mental health and well-being, then it increases the significant impact that it can have on your life, and ultimately make it so that you are less able to function. It can create conflicts in relationships, difficulties at school, performance at work, and all of those things can lead you in a direction that is not what you want for your life, and not where you value putting your time and your energy and your direction. So I think it's so important that we talk about how our mental well-being is, and where we need help. Stereotypes are a huge reason why a lot of people do not seek treatment and do not get the help that they need, and end up suffering alone. And that is not the way that we support each other as human beings, or should support each other as human beings, on our paths to recovery and helping us get to the life that we deserve.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I think that stigma, or what I hear a lot from people is they're feeling depressed. Maybe people in my life who haven't experienced that before, but they're experiencing it now, but they're like, oh, it's not that bad, or people have it worse than I do, so like I shouldn't feel this way, like people have it way worse. And so
Mhm.
have you seen any of that as well, of like
Mhm.
just sort of a full spectrum of people experiencing mental health issues?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you make a really important point, that everyone sort of has a tendency to compare themselves to other people, and to downplay their own struggles. And the fact is, this pandemic has really shown us that we are all impacted by what happens, in our society. Social isolation, which many of us have faced, has caused huge stressors and impacts, in our ability to connect, with others and feel like we belong to our community and to our family, to our friends. Um, and there's really not a lot of usefulness around comparing your struggle to someone else's, because at the end of the day, you are the one, whose life you're living. And if it's not moving in the direction that feels, filled with joy for you, if you're not able to function in the way that, feels, like you value your life, like you're getting what you want out of your life, you're contributing to those around you, um, then it's okay and important to ask for support and help. And it's even better to do that early on. So what we see a lot is that when people don't ask for help early on, it just gets worse and worse, and it becomes more difficult to handle. So even if you're not sure if it's something that needs, specific treatment or resources, go ahead and ask and see what's out there. Sometimes it might just take talking to someone one time, or maybe 3 times, or a handful of times, and then you're able to get the tools and coping skills that you need to move forward. So there is no harm at all in asking that first time that you wonder, um, am I struggling here, and do I need some help?
That's a great point. And so, part of what we're talking about today is being a mental health ally, and and that destigmatizing, asking for help. And so, what does it mean to be a mental health ally?
It's a great question. And I think the first, probably the most important piece of being a mental health ally is educating yourself, just being aware of how mental health conditions and how addictions impact people and their lives. So understanding more about the ways that people struggle, why they struggle, what those symptoms look like in people's lives. That's a really important way of understanding that this is something that a lot of people struggle with, and many of us watching, many of us talking, have that personal or family experience that we can relate to. So understanding, is a really important piece. Um, and if you notice someone struggling, um, I think understanding allows you to, when you notice someone struggling, to be able to ask them how they're doing, to feel more comfortable. Um, Asking if they're struggling in any kind of a way. One important part of mental health first aid, which which I'm sure I'll share a little bit more about later today, mental health first aid really talks about how if we notice someone struggling with, for example, thoughts of harming themselves, not to be afraid to ask about those things directly. And I think if you understand that if you ask, it doesn't make it worse. It gives someone an opportunity to share and then get the resources that they need. That's something that mental health allies really do, is just, if you notice that someone is struggling, be willing to ask them how they're doing. And then finally, listen. So when you ask them how they're doing, really listen to their answer. So many of us are busy in our daily lives and we say, "How are you doing today, Julia?" And you say, "Fine." Or maybe you say fine, but it doesn't sound fine. And so taking the time to just say, "Are you sure you're doing okay? Is there anything that you'd like to share with me? I really want to know how you're doing," and really listen to the answer and be that safe place for people to come.
Yeah, that's such a great point, is, yeah, creating that safe space so that, people in your life know that you're there for them, and that, you're an ear to you can lend an ear to listen, and support them. And so my next question is, so community mental health centers like Jefferson Center play a key role as well in, mental health and supporting the community. So how can people get involved and help Jefferson Center?
There are a lot of ways to help Jefferson Center, and by helping Jefferson Center, you really are helping people who are struggling with mental health and substance use disorders. So we offer a number of classes. Like I mentioned earlier, mental health first aid is an excellent way to educate yourself and have the tools and resources to identify when someone's struggling and provide them with options for resources. We also offer a variety of suicide prevention trainings, such as QPR, question, persuade, respond. So there's information about that on our website if you're interested in a training or a class. Um, there are also volunteer opportunities for you or your workplace, if you're wanting to get more directly involved, and wonderful events that we would love for you to attend or donate, and also just share our posts from social media, share events that are upcoming with your networks, and that's a great way to just get the word out about how to support Jefferson Center, but also reduces that stigma that we've been talking about. It's important that when we talked earlier about how to be available and create that safe space for people in your life. And that is such an important first step, but also to know that you don't need to take care of that person all by yourself. I think that can be difficult if you're struggling. It can be difficult to be there for someone else as well. So part of that is just knowing the resources and how you can get them to the appropriate resources, and know that you don't have to take care of all of your family and friends yourself, that there are resources to support that.
That is a great point. I know mental health first aid, kind of gives you those tools to almost be, to respond to people in the moment. But then part of that training too is, learning about the resources and referring them to that. But that's a really great point too, of, you don't have to be the only resource for people, that there's other resources available as well. So this week, we've been sharing some stories from people about why they're a mental health ally. And so, I wanted to ask you, why is mental health important to you?
Mm. Mental health has always it's been something that's been important to me throughout my life. I think, like many of us, growing up with family members who struggled with mental health and addictions, it was something early on that I realized the importance of paying attention to. And I also realized throughout the course of my life the powerful impact that we can have in each other's lives, particularly when we create the right circumstances and resources and access to those services and supports that people need to make incredible changes and positive recovery in their lives. Um, People are so incredibly resilient in the face of extreme difficulties and struggles. I've seen people overcome just horrendous life events and tragic experiences, and trauma and grief and mental illness. And people, when given the right tools, supports, and access to services, can just go on to thrive. And so that's what's been important for me to see, and it continues to reinforce the importance of this field and the work that we do. I also, on a more personal note, lost my brother about 3.5 years ago to a drug overdose. And it was the end of his very long struggle. But it's taught me a lot about the importance of just that access and funding for the services that are really needed for people when they're ready to receive those. So that's part of why this is so important and personal for me.
Well, Kiara, I'm sorry to hear about your brother. It's always difficult to lose a family member, but I think it shows just how deep of an impact that mental health and substance use can have, not only on the lives of the person experiencing it, but the people in their lives. And that's why it is so important that we do this work, and that we're allies, and giving people safe spaces to talk. So we are coming up on time, so one last question for you. Is there anything else that you would like people to know?
I would love for people to I just want to give a huge shout out to all of the behavioral health care workers who have been, working so hard during this pandemic on the front lines with people who need our help. We have an amazing team here at Jefferson Center. And while they've been struggling with their own, balance and juggling acts in their personal lives, they've also been there and present for our community and our clients and the people that have needed us during this pandemic. So I just have tremendous gratitude for the people that do this work. And if anyone who's watching sees a behavioral health care worker out there, out and about, please thank them for what they do, and just recognize the incredible work that they do every day.
Yes, that's a great point. All behavioral health workers and our Jefferson Center staff have been wonderful and just helping so many people. Kiara, thank you so much for all of the information today. I know I found it helpful. I'm sure everyone watching did as well. And if you are watching this video after it's over, please feel free to message us here on Facebook, and we'll get back to you. And just remember that no matter what you're facing in life, like if you're feeling overwhelmed, worried, or stressed, Jefferson Center is here for you. And we're open, we're accepting new clients, and accessing care is easier than ever with virtual appointments. And you can visit our website at jcmh.org, or follow us on Facebook for more information and resources. And you can also reach us by calling 303-425-0300. So thank you again, and thank you everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, Julia. Bye, everyone.